Phytoplankton, meaning plant, and planktos, meaning wanderer or drifter. Phytoplankton obtain their energy through photosynthesis, as do trees and other plants on land. This means phytoplankton must have light from the sun, so they live in the well-lit surface layers of oceans and lakes. In comparison with terrestrial plants, phytoplankton are distributed over a larger surface area, are exposed to less seasonal variation and have markedly faster turnover rates than trees. As a result, phytoplankton respond rapidly on a global scale to climate variations. Phytoplankton form the base of marine and freshwater food webs and are key players in the global carbon cycle. They account for about half of global photosynthetic activity and at least half of the oxygen production, despite amounting to only about 1% of the global plant biomass. Phytoplankton are very diverse, varying from photosynthesizing bacteria to plant-like algae to armor-plated coccolithophores. Important groups of phytoplankton include the diatoms, cyanobacteria and dinoflagellates, although many other groups are represented. Most phytoplankton are too small to be individually seen with the unaided eye. However, when present in high enough numbers, some varieties may be noticeable as colored patches on the water surface due to the presence of chlorophyll within their cells and accessory pigments in some species. Scientists estimate half of global photosynthetic carbon fixation and 50 to 80% of oxygen production on Earth comes from the ocean. Most of this production is from marine phytoplankton, drifting seaweed, marine algae, and some photosynthetic bacteria called cyanobacteria. One particular species of bacteria, Prochlorococcus, is the smallest photosynthetic organism on Earth. But this tiny bacterium produces up to 20% of all oxygen in the global biosphere. That's a higher percentage than all tropical rainforests on land combined. Calculating the exact percentage of oxygen produced in the ocean is difficult because the amounts constantly change. Scientists can use ocean color satellite imagery to track photosynthesizing plankton and estimate the amount of photosynthesis occurring in the ocean. But satellite imagery cannot tell the whole story. The amount of plankton changes seasonally and in response to changes in the water's nutrient load, temperature, and other factors. Studies have shown that the amount of oxygen in specific locations varies with time of day and with the tides. Phytoplankton are photosynthesizing microscopic protists and bacteria that inhabit the upper sunlit layer of almost all oceans and bodies of fresh water on Earth. In parallel to plants on land, phytoplankton are agents for primary production in water. They create organic compounds from carbon dioxide dissolved in the water, a process that sustains the aquatic food web. Phytoplankton form the base of the marine food web and are crucial players in the Earth's carbon cycle. Marine photosynthesis is dominated by microalgae, which together with cyanobacteria, are collectively called phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are extremely diverse, varying from photosynthesizing bacteria, to plant-like diatoms, to armor-plated coccolithophores. Phytoplankton obtain energy through the process of photosynthesis and must therefore live in the well-lit surface layer. While almost all phytoplankton species are obligate photoautotrophs, there are some that are mixotrophic and other non-pigmented species that are actually heterotrophic. Of these, the best known are dinoflagellate genera such as Noctiluca and Dinophysis, that obtain organic carbon by ingesting other organisms or detrital material. Phytoplankton live in the photic zone of the ocean, where photosynthesis is possible. During photosynthesis, they assimilate carbon dioxide and release oxygen. If solar radiation is too high, phytoplankton may fall victim to photodegradation. For growth, phytoplankton cells depend on nutrients, which enter the ocean by rivers, continental weathering, and glacial ice meltwater on the poles. Phytoplankton release dissolved organic carbon into the ocean. Since phytoplankton are the basis of marine food webs, they serve as prey for zooplankton, fish larvae and other heterotrophic organisms. They can also be degraded by bacteria or by viral lysis. Although some phytoplankton cells, such as dinoflagellates, are able to migrate vertically, They are still incapable of actively moving against currents. So they slowly sink and ultimately fertilize the seafloor with dead cells and detritus. Phytoplankton are crucially dependent on minerals. These are primarily macronutrients such as nitrate, phosphate or silicic acid, whose availability is governed by the balance between the so-called biological pump and upwelling of deep, nutrient-rich waters. Phytoplankton nutrient composition drives and is driven by the Redfield ratio of macronutrients generally available throughout the surface oceans. However,